Hey guys, this is Toti bringing you another Commander deck tech. This time I'm doing Intet the Dreamer. This is something that you guys suggested in the comments, so yeah, if that's what you want, that's what you get. So, Intet, I must say I wasn't really too excited about doing an Intet deck before, but it kind of grew on me afterwards. So basically what the guy does is whenever he deals damage to an opponent, you can play 3 and cast you basically exile the top card of your deck under Intet, and you can cast that for free as long as this guy remains in play. So I think there are many ways of building this deck, some with more or less synergy, some are just like good deck or good card decks where the ability is just a plus. I'm gonna go for more of a synergistic kind of thing. So what we're gonna be doing is basically trying to manipulate the top card of our library, and then kind of set up what this guy is gonna be removing, so that we can get good stuff all the time. Yeah. Anyway, without further ado, let's just get started. Let's go quickly through the lands. Command Tower, every commander deck has to have one of these. Super cheap as well. Reflecting Pool, if you can afford it, it's a must as well. This is also Acceleration. I'm running all of the fetch lands that I can because they search up duels. I'll just go through these quickly. It's just the basics, nothing too exciting. All of the I'm running all of the fetches that I can, all of the duels from Ravnica and the old ones as well. Most of these colors from Innistrad and M10, 11, and 12 that come into play untapped if you control a land of its type, kind of. Only playing one basic mountain because I'm not playing so much red in this deck because the red kind of sucks in Commander, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I'm not playing that much of that. Then the utility lands, if you want to call it like that. Mosswood Bridge, we have a lot of fatties that we can search up with Intet, so it's pretty easy to get power 10 or more. So free card there. Kina, just to pump up your general if you need to. Academy Ruins to get some of your artifacts back. Kessig Wolfrun, this is actually a very important card in this deck, because the way this deck normally works, or rather normally wins, is with commander damage with Intet. And if you see, one thing that's actually quite important is that Intet has 6 power, which means if you hit 3 times with him, that's 18 damage, leaving you 3 damage short of killing in 3 turns, in 3 hits rather. So this is a card that goes a long way to helping you kill people in 3 hits instead of 4. And also the trample is extremely relevant because Intet's ability triggers when a player receives damage. So if someone chumps your Intet, you can just actually activate this for 0 just to give him trample, and then his ability will trigger, which is pretty important. Then Yevmaya Hollow, I actually love this card. I'm playing it in all the green decks that I have, just because I love regeneration in a land, especially with all the Day of Judgments and those kind of wrath effects that are going around. And people tend to forget about lands that do special things, and I've had on more than one occasion people just wasting a card when I can just tap one to regenerate my guy. And then not really a land, but Maze of Ith is always a good one to have. One more thing I want to quickly discuss before we go through the cards. One of the weaknesses in this, I would say, in this color combination is the lack of defense, basically. So good removal, good mass removal. In white you have all these wrath effects in black and white. Especially in white, when you have good wrath effects like Final Judgment, I think it's called, the one that exiles all creatures, or Hallowed Burial that puts them on the bottom of their controllers' decks. That's especially good against commanders. Exile and not going into the graveyard is especially good against Persist or Undying guys, for example. And also, a lot of commander decks are based on graveyard recursion, and that's pretty good against that. So that's one of the weaknesses of our deck, the defense, and that's why some of the maybe funky card choices that I made that I'll explain in a bit. But anyway, enough talking there. So, as I said, one of the basic things that I'm going to be doing here is like synergy and trying to set up the top of my deck. So, the best card to do that is Sensei's Dividing Top. I normally don't like to play this card in Commander because it's super slow and it, you can't really auto yield to the ability so much because people will put him on the top and then it comes back as a kind of new Sensei Dividing Top, and it's just a pain. It makes games super slow. I don't normally run this card, but in this deck I can have to. Soothsaying, that's a new one from Mercadian Masks. Pretty cool effect, kind of just lets you rearrange the top of your library. Scroll Rack, kind of the same thing. Also has the added benefit of getting cards from your hand on top of your library in case you have like a fatty that's in your hand and you want to put in the top so you can cast for free with Intet. Brainstorm, kind of the same thing. Crystal Ball, another variation of Soothsaying and Dividing Top. Then we have a bunch of tutors just so we can actually look up a specific card and put it on the top, so then we can actually hit with Intet and cast that specific card for free. So these type of tutors that put on top of the library are really good in this deck. So I play almost all of them. So Mystical Tutor, Worldly Tutor, that's for instants or sorceries. For creatures, another one for creatures, just sorcery speed. There is another kind of Mystical Tutor from, I think it's Portal 3 Kingdoms. It's called Personal Tutor, but it only searches for a sorcery. And I just didn't think it was really worth the slot. And then another one, Noxious Revival, is a card that normally doesn't see so much play, but in this deck it's actually pretty good. You can just reuse a card from your graveyard and cast it for free with Intet. Also, the fact that it can be free, it's kind of relevant because you are a lot of times quite mana tight with triggering Intet's ability and all that. Future Sight, I mean, as long as you're playing with the top of your library, you might as well cast those things for free. And then Jason Mind Sculptor just to get more brainstorm effects. Now here we have some of the fat stuff that we can look up. This is just the stuff that is there basically to be abused with Intet. Recurring Insight, you draw 1,000,000 cards. One thing that is important, at least in Magic Online with this card, is that right. So I'm not sure about this, but it happened to me once that I didn't have a stop on my upkeep, and I then didn't get to cast this card. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast that card from your graveyard. So it sounds like a trigger ability, but I don't know, maybe I just missed it in that specific game, but I would just recommend that when you cast this card, just put a stop on your upkeep just in case. Anyway, this draws you 1,000,000 cards. Spelljack I really like because it lets you steal a spell from someone. I normally don't like so much counter spells just because they are 1-for-1s, and as I said before, I don't like 1-for-1s in EDH or Commander. But 1-for-1s that do good things, like effectively doing a 2-for-1 because you get to keep the spell, is also pretty good. Especially cool is the fact that you can search up one of these counters, put it under Intet, and then use that to protect the Intet because you're going to be basically tapped out, and you can use that to protect him if they try to kill him, so that's pretty good. Rider Replication is also good because you can cast it for free, and when you do, if you have enough mana, you can pay 5 for the kicker. So putting like 5 copies of a single guy only costs you 5 instead of 9, which is a lot. Yeah. Then Karn Liberated, just a big fat planeswalker, nice to have. Praetor's Council regrowths all your cards from your graveyard, and you have no maximum cards hand size, just one of the big annoying sorceries. A couple of the the Eldrazi, draw 4 cards and Vindicate when it comes to play. Since Intet says you can cast the guys without paying its its mana cost, their abilities actually trigger, so that's pretty good. Then Woodfall Primus, another classic in any green deck, pretty much. Just a guy with persist, does kind of vindicate for artifacts or enchantments or lands. Avenger of Zendikar, not much to say about this one, just a good guy. Sphinx of Uthun, he just does a Fact of Fiction when he comes into play, so that's cool. And then Stormtide, Leviathan. This guy is actually pretty good, because I was saying before that some of the problems of this deck is defense, and this guy does it while also having an unblockable attacker. So it's attack and defense, so yeah, he's pretty good. Then I do have a suite of counter spells in this deck, especially because this deck is kind of commander dependent, so you really need some cards to protect your commander, making sure he stays in play. So Spell Crumple and Hinder are pretty much the same card. The reason these 1-for-1 counter spells are here is because you can use them to counter commanders and remove them from the game forever. It's kind of cheesy, kind of mean to do that to a commander, but there are some commanders that are pretty broken. And yeah, anyway. Mana Drain, again, 1-for-1 counter, but you get 1,000,000 mana. So if you actually cast this, let's say turn 2 under turn 3, or turn 3 under turn 3, no, I guess if you cast it turn 2 under turn 3 play, you get 3 mana, and then you can cast turn 3 Intet, which is pretty good. And Glen Elendra Archmage, again to protect your Intet mostly, and basically 2 counters in one guy and a body. So he's good. Some of the ramp we play, Soul Ring and Mana Vault, I don't have to say much about. Nature's Lore, Farseek, and 3 Visits basically do the same thing, kind of a better rampant growth effect. Sakura Tribe Elder, similar to these, but it's also a creature which is relevant for the what's it called? Survival of the Fittest we have in our deck. Coiling Coracle, I think is pretty cool in these colors. He can either ramp you or draw you a card, which is always nice. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, the same kind of effect. Solemn Simulacrum, he is basically a staple in EDH. You always play this card, irrelevant of your colors or deck. And then Oracle of Moldaya, he again works with the top of your library kind of thing, and lets you ramp and kind of generate a bit of card advantage as well. Then, some of the cards we have to protect our general. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots do pretty much the same thing, just haste and hexproof or shroud. I like the boots better because you can still use Kessig Wolfrun on your guy when this is equipped, and it still protects them. Whereas with Lightning Greaves, it comes up a lot that that you kind of have to jump through hoops to be able to Kessig Wolfrun your guy. And then Loxodon and Warhammer is actually there because what I spoke about before. If you hit 3 times with Intet, that's 18 damage, so you are 3 short, and this actually gives you the 3 you're missing. So with this card, this is another way of actually letting you kill in 3 hits with Intet. And the lifelink is obviously not irrelevant, kind of added protection as well, which was, as I was saying, it's what's lacking in this deck. And the trample is always good. Same as the Kessig Wolfrun. Trample is good to make sure your Intet deals damage. So pretty much does a bit of everything that we want. So yeah. Then here's our removal suite. Decimate, basically like a 4-for-1. You almost always, I think, have 4 targets in EDH. So yeah, this is normally a pretty good card, 4-for-1. Hull Breach, 2-for-1, enchantment and artifact removal. Enchantments and artifacts are pretty annoying in EDH, and you need cards against them. So that is why that is here. Trigon Predator, again, a reusable disenchant, which is why I like it better than stuff like Crows and Grip or stuff like that are just 1-for-1s. Beast Within, instant Vindicate, 3/3 is irrelevant. Yeah, not much to say. All is Dust is Here starts the like mass removal suite that we are playing. All is Dust is not super exciting, but it kills everything and leaves our Eldrazi around if we have some of those. And you can cast it for free with the Intet, so it's not amazing, but it's okay. Blasphemous Act and Starstorm are again kind of sweepers, but if you can see, all of these cards are either damage based, like these two, which don't actually kill. I mean, it's surprising the amount of times that 13 damage doesn't kill a creature, with stuff like Koresh or really like even what's her name, the Mimoplasm normally gets pretty big pretty fast. Yeah. So as I was saying, the mass removal suite is not amazing. Just this is what we have. Then Oblivion Stone, yeah, mass removal again. Proteus staff. I saw this one. I hadn't thought about this one. I saw it from Sheldon Menery's deck, I believe. He made an Intet deck, and I was checking that out, and I thought it was a pretty cool choice. Just more removal. It's actually pretty cool against commanders. It's another kind of cheesy way to kill the commanders, like these two. But you know, sometimes some commanders just own you, and if it's not commander, it also helps you deal with indestructible creatures like Ulamog here or stuff like that. So yeah, that's what this guy's for. And always in a pinch, you can use it on your own creature. And since you have a bunch of fatties, you might get something pretty sweet. So yeah, I'm just checking it out. Then here we have just some. Here we come to the good cards, just random good cards section. Rhystic Study is in my opinion, a card that you have to play in every blue deck because it's just amazing. Factor Fiction is pretty good. Consecrated Sphinx, this is kind of like the card advantage cards. Sphinx, Overbeing of Myth, not amazing, but I decided to give it a try. Basically like a Phyrexian Arena with a big body, so why not? And then Survival of the Fittest, again, it's kind of like a green staple in EDH. I'm putting a lot of my decks now because I bought it recently since it's banned in Legacy, I guess. It's not as expensive. It used to be like $30, so I never went for it. But now it's like $3, so in Magic Online. So yeah, then just random good stuff. Snapcaster Mage lets us reuse our cool stuff. Riku with the 2 reflections. He seems like a good card to cast off. He's a bit of expensive, but it looks like a good card to cast off of the Intet. And if you actually manage to keep this guy in play, which is pretty unlikely, I would assume you can copy as well spells that you cast for free with Intet. So that's a pretty nice combo there. Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. I'm not going to lie, this is not a good card. I don't think this is a good card. But, as I was saying, Protection. It's a lot of times that you have like a gigantic Eldrazi or a good Intet, but people are just smashing you with a bunch of small tokens or creatures or stuff like that. And this is kind of like a propaganda style effect. Obviously people can attack you and pay 3 and you get nothing. And that's fine. It just kind of disencourages people from attacking you. You know, if you have the option of attacking a guy and have to pay 3 against attacking just another guy and you don't have to pay anything, yeah, you know, it makes people think twice. Bribery, just another. I really want to get the Mercadian Masks version because white borders are horrible. But yeah, this is the one I have. Yeah, just a good card. Primeval Titan, not much to say about him. Phyrexian Metamorph, another just utility good card. Copies kills commanders, copies good cards, etc. Charmbreaker Devils are here to reuse a lot of the really sweet instants or sorceries that we are casting in our deck. He's normally like an auto kill. I have never managed to return a card with this. It's always been killed before. Yavimaya Elder is just sick. Gets you lands, draws you cards, jump blocks, amazing. And Eternal Witness, I can auto include in any green deck. So, let's give this deck a try then. As as I was saying before as well, or rather I never said it, but I'm gonna say it now. Some of the things that I found about this deck is that its games get really, really long. The last games I played with this deck were like, one was 3 hours or something, and the last one was fast, quote unquote. It was like 1.5 hours, I don't know. So yeah, maybe I get some 3-player games in there. Otherwise, I think I'm just gonna really make the editing quite shorter for this. But yeah, enough speaking. Let's go to the action then. Yeah, so something I forgot to mention actually, why I show you guys this cool 3D art of Intet. A lot of the Intet decks play as their big splashy sorceries stuff like Time Warp, which is what's it called? The 10 mana double Time Warp. So take 2 turns for 10 mana. A lot of them play that and basically Time Warp and capture Jing Zoe and the other one, there's another one. There's like 3 that cost 5. So a lot of the versions that I saw play that. That is actually very good. It's really powerful. If you want to go for the most powerful Intet deck possible, you should play those cards. At least the 10 mana one. For the life of me, I can't remember the name right now. But I don't really like that because I'm not a big fan of taking extra turns in EDH. I think that's a bit cheesy. Like, no one really has fun if you're taking 7,000 turns and they're just waiting there and you're just doing broken stuff. I mean, that's not fun. That's not cool. So that's why I don't play it, because I don't like people playing that against me. So I don't play it myself. But that is actually something that would be really good in the deck, and you should consider. And that's good also as kind of protection that we were saying. That's a bit of what the deck is lacking. It's really good against protection because you can be aggressive and you can take another extra turn to leave some guys back and and have more protection back. So yeah, just something that you guys might want to consider.